What's happening with spells? I think that is one of the biggest things that everybody is curious about and something we don't have quite as much information on when it comes to the 2024 rules update, but we do have a bit, and I'm going to share everything we currently know and things worth being excited about in this video. So one important bit of information we have is that there are going to be over 200 spells that have been enhanced, which is the word that they like to use when it comes to the new book. Now, I don't even think that means new spells. I think that means 200 spells that have already existed in some capacity, whether that was in the original player's handbook or they were in Xanathar's or Tasha's or they came from somewhere else. Those spells, over 200 of them, have been altered in some way. We don't know what those alterations are for a lot of them, but we do know about some of them, which I'll be getting into. For instance, when it comes to some healing spells, we know that Cure Wounds, Healing Word, and even Prayer of Healing have seen some revamps. To quickly go over them, you have both Healing Word and Cure Wounds basically having their initial dice doubled. So instead of 1d4, it's 2d4 at level 1 for Healing Word, and the same can be said from 1d8 to 2d8 for Cure Wounds. Even better, it doubles those dice at every level higher. So at level 3, if you're casting Cure Wounds with that spell slot, a level 3 spell slot, you would actually do 6d8 plus your spell modifier. That seems good. With Prayer of Healing, this not only still does the healing, but also grants the benefits of a short rest. So we're seeing those changes, but that's not all. There's some when it comes to some of these other things, like, for instance, more damage dealing spells. Cloud of Daggers, which is a spell that pretty much once mobs started to go around it, it didn't have much use. You could put it in a gap, but once they passed it, it was nothing and you had to maintain concentration to keep it there. Well, now you can move it with a spell action. So you can put your Cloud of Daggers down and then shift it around, making it way more viable. In addition to that, Chromatic Orb now has the possibility to bounce to other enemies. So you can sit it out there instead of having to move it and do everything with it. You can actually bounce it around, which is a unique feature, and apparently there are lots of these little changes to tons of spells, but we're not done yet. They've also stated they made a lot of changes to spells that didn't see much use to make them more viable and to give more variety when it comes to choices of what spells you want to utilize. One of these is Blade Ward, which, to be fair, probably didn't see much use because it was only one turn before, whereas now it will last a full minute with concentration, and it will give all enemies a minus 1d4 to hit you. This is a much better spell, and one that I definitely think is going to start getting used to basically just be like, yeah, I have resistances and I'm harder to hit, and I just have to maintain that concentration so I can still fling spells and just be more defensive. That's pretty awesome. I'm very curious what other things they will do with spells like Blade Ward that just didn't see much use. How are they going to rise those up? It's not just spell changes though. We actually have a whole new area of effect style. So we have Sphere and Line and all that stuff still, but we also now have emanation. So how emanation works is that, like I said, it will join the others like Cone and Line and Sphere, but it extends in a straight line in all directions from a creature or object and moves with them if the spell duration is longer than instantaneous. So it moves with you, it expands out in every single direction. You're probably thinking, well, that sounds like a sphere. Well, with emanation, the way that there is a difference is that the point of origin, aka the caster, is not considered part of the area of effect. So you can put it on somebody, and then as they move around, whether it's you or somebody else, probably depending on the spell, they can move around and they are outside of it, and the things will just shoot out from them. So they give the examples, Thunderclap and Spirit Guardians are now classified as emanation for their areas of effect. So I'm curious how this is going to play out. We don't know right now exactly which spells are going to have it other than these and what the actual implications are, but it's an interesting thing. Now, it is worth mentioning, and this is a part that some people may not like, they're not all going to be buffs. All the spells are not getting enhanced in a positive way. I think some, as they've stated in an interview with the Dungeon Dudes, are going to actually see some nerfs or adjustments that most people will consider nerfs. And I'm not completely against that, because let's be real here. There are some spells, let's think just some annoying ones, Banishment, whatever it might be, could probably use some nerfs. Wall of Force, I think a lot of people agree, kind of just breaks the game in a lot of situations. And so if they're able to adjust those spells, still make them fun, still make them useful, but also not make it so at higher levels, spellcasters can literally just absolutely dominate any sort of martial class, I think it's a step in the right direction. So let's talk about some examples. And by example, I just mean something that I would like to see changed, right? So this is gonna get me a lot of flack probably. It's gonna be pretty controversial, But I kind of would like if they made Fireball a higher level spell, as in you got it maybe between 8th and 10th level instead of 5th, because it throws off the balancing between classes by a lot. At 5th level, you're going to have your martial like fighter or barbarian get 2 attacks. Cool. And we're not talking about they took these extra feats and they did these things to be able to get an extra attack or to be able to, no, at base, because that's what a wizard or a sorcerer, whoever gets Fireball at base. They don't have to take extra stuff to get it. It's just given to them. So a fighter or barbarian at 5th level can take 2 attacks. Cool. They deal whatever that does. A wizard or sorcerer goes Fireball and can literally wipe out groups of 7, 8, 9, 10 enemies in a single spell. Now I get it. They're capped on that. You know, they're only going to have 1, 2 spell slots. Cool, fine. But that's a massive power gap. And so that's something I think would be curious to at least play around with and see how it would play out if some massive AoE spell like that didn't get used or become available until a higher level. So that's my one thing that popped into my head that I'd be curious about, but what are yours? This is where you're going to tell me down in the comments what spell you would like to see changed going into the new 2024 rules and how you would like to see it changed. So let me know down below. I want to see tons of cool and unique ideas, so don't let me down. Now, if you enjoy D&D and TTRPG content just like this, please do consider subscribing to the channel and giving this video a thumbs up to get it in your algorithm. Also, if you want to support me directly in the best way, please consider becoming a member here on YouTube or subscribing on my Patreon at Level Up DM. And of course, until next time, good luck in your adventures.